Hi, welcome to this week's UMIP review call. This week we've got 2 UMIPs up for review. The first one we'll take is the carbon credits. Not carbon credits, the carbon price identifiers. Let me just get that up. We have an initial assessment here, and I saw that there was a couple of community reviewers on it. There seem to be quite a lot of issues with the proposal as it is, with a missing price feed, price interval cut-off, funding rate identifier, and the daily frequency. Does somebody want to speak to this? Pull request 413.
Brandis, you left most of the comments, right?
Yes, for this one, yes, there's some of clarifications regarding how the price base code is defined, and but not most major issue is understanding whether or not this daily frequency is sufficient for perpetual product, and in addition we would need price feed implementation actual or reviewed, and also funding rate price identifier is requirement if that's if the use case is to be used with UMIP based perpetual contracts, but that's not like precisely specified. Maybe there are some other type of contracts they're planning to use, so needs to be specified here.
Great feedback.
There does seem to be quite a lot of bits that is missing. I don't really think that this is suitable to go forward at the present time. How do others feel?
Agreed. It would need a price feed implementation if it was going to be used as a perpetual. It's also like not blocking anything for them if it's going to be used for a perpetual, because they couldn't really use this price identifier until they had a funding rate identifier anyways. So it seems best to push.
Super. Is someone in touch with the team?
Yeah, I just started pinging and me on JKB, and I know him from like a year ago when he submitted like UMIP 19 or something, like a very early one. So he's familiar with the process at least. So yeah, I'll talk with him.
Oh, excellent, super. So we'll declare that a no-go pending further conversations.
Yes.
The other one that we had in was the Sherlock one. I know that I can see that you've left quite a lot of comments on this, Rainus. Do you want to speak to this one as well?
Yes, there are some of clarifications, just a language issue, just to make maybe some of issues more explicit, and the main comment is just to convert it from implementation using generic KPI options to its own explicit specific price identifier, and for that what would be missing is securities, additional security section, and making more explicit disclaimers on what the potential claimers of these hacks, or also the Sherlock committee, that they are kind of relying on the final vote of UMA holders, but UMA holders should not be deemed to be ultimate experts in this field. So that I think it's important to clarify, just for sake of it.
Yeah,
I noticed.
and
go on, Sean.
yeah, that's good feedback, and I'm planning to convert it to a separate price identifier, and I agree with that direction, since I think this is like kind of a new standard for, like, we've never really seen a price identifier like this before. And the like UMA voters not being experts is also like definitely a great point that should be highlighted. And we kind of discussed this like more privately, Rainus, but I think like the whole framing should be around, they should be like basically synthesizers of like existing data and existing reports rather than doing like initial analysis themselves. So the assumption would be if like Sherlock's committee has made a ruling on some sort of hack, then that hack's probably been around for like quite some while, and there's been like definitely like multiple different like security reports on it. So that's why it seems like fitting to use like UMA in this situation.
Yes, I would absolutely like agree to that. The only most tricky part, if and most subjective, is to like qualify whether or not, even
The
if it's
amount.
even if it's like clear that the hack happened and the funds are lost, but just to make sure that the contract with Sherlock, if it really covers, and that's a field where some expertise is like needed to understand like what is covered and what is not covered by this contract. That's I think the hardest part.
Yeah. I would also assume that like if this, well, first of all, like price requests would be very rare, but I think even in that situation, it'd be like kind of be like UMA voters sitting on a jury in front of like a legal trial in a way, because I would assume that both Sherlock and their security committee that made the original ruling before this was sent to like UMA arbitration, they would be very invested in the voting process and also the protocol making the claim. So I think both sides would be very active in the discussion, and UMA voters would basically be rolling on like, who actually makes the better case in a way.
Yeah, I think that's I think a right direction in that part, and maybe also just specifying more explicitly in this UMIP that the claimant and also the committee should actively like promote their view and UMA like voting channel, for example.
Yep, very true. It's also an interesting situation because like I do have an ancillary data field in there, which is like additional resources, but also the expectation would be that like this price request would only ever be made by like one side of the aisle, right? Like the claiming protocol that disagrees with like the committee's ruling would be the only ones to ever submit this claim. So there's definitely like a reliance, like you can't depend on all kind of like supporting information being within like linked within ancillary data or something, right? Because that would be like very one-sided. So I agree, like it should highlight kind of where the discussion should happen during voting. And I'll add that. It's a cool price identifier though.
I saw there was a suggestion to use the yes or no query. Is that not an option?
It is an option, but we think it's better to do a full UMIP because the yes or no query kind of suffers from the same things where it's not like necessarily geared towards this, and this is something that we actually probably want to have a vote on just because it's like very new. Hey, Hexy.
Hey guys, I've been ghosting for some time now. Good to see you guys again. Nice
Good
haircut.
to see you as well.
Hey, Hexy, great you could turn up. We're just discussing the Sherlock proposal, pull request 411. It originally went in as an implementation, but we've decided to turn it into a full UMIP.
Gotcha. Go ahead. This is out of my expertise.
Cool. I noticed that Reynes had also brought up issues around the unresolvable aspects and exactly how the escalation game would play out.
Yes, but I view it's more as clarification, just being more explicit, because I had some questions on how to interpret those, but I think that there's no like fundamentally there shouldn't be a problem. Is it just maybe more explicit language on that?
Mm-hmm.
And that's more like clarification for like this Sherlock usage side, right? Like it makes sense from like the voter side, correct?
Yes.
Cool.
So what's our thinking on this? I'm kind of getting the impression that there's further work to be done that suggests that it won't go forward for this week's.
I don't think there's any major blockers. Like basically it's adding a security consideration section and giving the price identifier a name. Reynes, would you agree?
Yes. Yeah. So only adding security section, clarifying some outstanding these comments, and guiding like voters, guiding the parties interested in this to participate like more actively in the voting channel of UMA.
So I think those should be conditionals, sorry.
Okay, so the conditionals are to add security, the security implementation. The security section. I've forgotten what it was called there. Add the
security considerations.
Security considerations, that's it. And to add guidance for voters.
And format as a price identifier, yeah.
And format it as a price identifier. Cool. Okay, so those are conditional on it going forward to the vote.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Then maybe just summarizing for Hexy real quick on the carbon price identifiers we had discussed before you joined, but the outcome sounds like the desire is to use the price identifiers for perpetual. It's not like necessarily clear if something with like daily granularity would work for perpetual. Also, if it is being used for a perpetual, then we would need a funding rate identifier as well. And also we would need a price feed implementation written. So we're pushing that price identifier. Does that all seem good to you?
Are we looking to get a different source in the future, or are we saying like it's not suitable at all?
Depends on what it's being used for. Like you could use this with a non-liquidatable contract for sure, like something with daily granularity. Right.
Got it.
It only becomes like a concern if there's like large moves between like different data points, because then you could have like situations where sponsors become like undercapitalized and funding rate identifier or funding rates that don't actually do what you want them to do.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Sucks, I missed that. About the granularity.
It is quite an interesting one. Sean's going to talk to the team and see if we can find a way forward. Any other issues to discuss?
Nope.
Cool. Excellent. I'm really glad you could join us, Hexy. That was
really
great.
Came late. Yeah, I was on a global travel, so internet access was a bit more restricted over there.
It's good to see you back.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. I'll see you guys around in the community.
Yep. See y'all.
See you soon. Bye.
All right. Bye.